Welcome back, students. In the previous lecture, we have completed the transmission line as a unit, and now today we are going to start with the last unit of electromagnetics, that's uniform plane wave. See, actually, this unit should come after unit number 4. Once you have basic concepts clear about electrodynamic field, Maxwell's equation, power, and Poynting theorem, it's better to start with the uniform plane wave. Usually, this is the practice I am adopting since last 2 or 3 years. So we'll start with the basics of uniform plane wave, what exactly wave is and how these plane waves propagates in the medium. Once you understand that, then this is the basic of wireless communication. Once you understand this wave equation, it will be easier for you to understand the forthcoming concepts. Now, what are the contents of this particular unit? First point is Maxwell's equation using phasor notation. Now this term might be new to you. What is phasor notations, how those things are represented in the phasor notation. For that, we will revise the concepts of your complex number, where any vector field can be represented in the phasor form, that we will try to see. Then electromagnetic wave equation, it's also called Helmholtz equation. Okay, so after this phasor notation, we will try to represent Maxwell's equation in the phasor form, and from the Maxwell's equation in the phasor form, we will derive electromagnetic wave equation, Helmholtz equation, the important point in the examination point of view. Relationship between E bar and H bar, it's already clear and already explained to you in the unit number 4. So I am not going to repeat it once again. Relationship between E bar and H bar is nothing but Poynting theorem. So that point is already covered. See, Poynting theorem can be either asked in unit number 4 or unit number 6, but it's a definite question, and it's a favorite question of the examiner. Then depth of penetration delta, then when the wave propagates through the conducting medium, there is another parameter that you need to consider, depth of penetration, that to how much depth these waves are penetrated in the conducting medium, that we will try to see. There are some expressions related to it and numericals also we will see. Concept of polarization. Polarization in the unit number 2, polarization in the dielectric and wave polarization are two different things. Usually students are confusing about that, but see, polarization in the wave, if this question is asked related to the question number unit number 6, it's definitely related to the wave polarization. We will see 3 types of polarization. Then reflection by perfect conductor normal incidence, reflection by perfect dielectric normal incidence, and finally Snell's law. So see, there are only 6 points in this particular unit, out of which one is already covered in unit number 4. So only 5 points we need to consider. Maxwell's equation you already know. So this is small unit, but it can give you 16 marks in final examination. So you should be aware of all these points, and we are not going to leave a single point from this particular unit, and we'll see each and every point in detail. So let's start with the first point, Maxwell's equations in the phasor notation. So to understand Maxwell's equation in the phasor form, first of all you try to understand what phasor form exactly is, so that it becomes easier for you to represent them in the Maxwell's equation. So before starting with that, let's revise the concept of the complex number. Let's say I am having two axes, x-axis and y-axis, where a real part is along x-axis and imaginary part is along y-axis. Let's see, this is x coordinate, because since it is a distance along x, so this is a y coordinate, and one vector r is drawn. You can show it by simple r or r bar, it doesn't make any difference. So r bar, so this is a vector, and this is making an angle of phi with the positive direction of x-axis. Okay, so this r bar vector is making an angle of phi with the positive direction of x-axis. We can apply the parallelogram concept of the vectors, and we can resolve this r bar into two mutually perpendicular components that you already know. So first of all, we'll try to represent this vector, and see this omega, radians per second, this is the angular velocity that we'll see. Now representation of the phasor. Let's say I want to represent a phasor, then z. Let's say this phasor I'm going to call it as z. Z equal to x plus iy or x plus jy. You can use this I as image to represent imaginary part. So it is x along real part and y along imaginary part. It can also be represented at r at an angle phi. You might be knowing this. These concepts are already clear to you while dealing with the preliminary points of unit number 1 in the vector calculus. So phasor is a complex number, that's clear, which can be written as z equal to x plus iy or r at an angle of phi. So this is equation number 1. So look at this diagram once again, just go through it, and then we'll go through the next slide. So I hope you have gone through that particular diagram, and now let's see. Even while studying a complex number in the mathematics, you might have gone through this particular thing. Z can also be written as r e raised to j phi or e raised to I phi. You can write it either I or j. So z equal to r e raised to j phi means this r is once again a magnitude of the vector which is already shown. So e raised to j phi, if I want to represent in terms of cos phi and sin phi, I can write this e raised to j phi as cos phi plus j sin phi. No doubt about this, we can write it like this only, where j is equal to under root of -1 and x is a real part and y is the imaginary part. These things are already clear to you. Now let's start with what is r. R is a magnitude of z. R is a magnitude of z, and this phi is represented, e raised to j phi is represented as cos phi plus j sin phi. So can I write r, if it is magnitude, then mod of z? Yes, I can. So r is equal to mod of z is equal to under root of, let's go back to this particular diagram, apply your Pythagoras theorem. R is equal to, since this is a parallelogram, opposite sides are equal, so this will become y, this will become x, and this is a right angle triangle, so hypotenuse square is equal to base square plus height square and side square root. You already know that. So I just applied those concepts, and r equal to z equal to under root of x square plus y square. Even you can represent if z equal to x plus iy, in order to calculate mod of z, it will be under root of x square plus y square, equation number 3. And phi is the angle between angle of z given by phi equal to tan inverse of y by x. Is it so? Phi equal to, now see, this is side y, this I can also represent it as y. So if I want to represent tan phi in the trigonometric identity we can write as opposite upon adjacent. So for tan phi, opposite side is y and adjacent side is x. So tan phi is equal to y by x, therefore phi equal to tan inverse of y by x. These concepts are also clear, no need to give more stress on it. To introduce a time element, now this is a time to introduce a time element, because in the electrodynamic field we came to the conclusion that fields are also going to vary with the time. So let's say phi, I want to represent phi with omega t plus theta. See, this is a new term which is introduced. Phi is equal to omega t plus theta. Can I replace phi in the above equation by omega t plus theta? Since phi is a time dependent variable, so introduce this element. So phi equal to omega t plus theta, where theta may be a function of time or space coordinates or a constant. Okay. So let's replace phi in the above equation by omega t plus theta. Theta may be a function of time or space coordinates, as we already discussed. Now, if this is so, the real part and imaginary part of r e raised to j phi r can be written as, now I have represented r e raised to j phi as r e raised to g omega t plus theta. So we know already this property of indices, we can represent it as e raised to j theta plus into e raised to j omega t. So r e raised to j theta into e raised to j omega t is, now if I write this form r e raised to j theta, how I can write it, that I write this as cos theta plus j sin theta. Can I write j omega t as e raised to j omega t as cos omega t plus j sin omega t? Yes. So if I combine them and replace phi with a theta plus j omega t, can I write this as real part? So see, I will just try to write it here, r e raised to j phi, and phi is written as j omega t plus theta. So it will be simply e raised to j in bracket omega t plus theta. If that is so, can I represent this in the cos and sin form? Yes. So it will be cos of omega t plus theta plus j sin omega t plus theta. So what will be the real part? So real part of r e raised to j phi is r cos of omega t plus theta, and imaginary part of r e raised to j phi is r sin omega t plus theta. Equation number 6 and 7. Now let's come back, take these points of what we have understood in the vector point or complex number. Let's apply those in the field theory of electromagnetics. Thus a sinusoidal current I of t. Now let's say one equation is given to you, that sinusoidal current I of t is given by I0 cos of omega t plus theta. Okay. Now once there is a cos term, you can write this as a real part, because real part is always a cos and imaginary part is always represented as sin. If I want to represent e raised to j phi in trigonometric form, so I0 cos of omega t plus theta may be equal to, can I write this as real part of I0 e raised to j theta into e raised to j omega t. You can just put it, write it I0 e raised to j theta, you take a j common, theta plus omega t, you can write this as cos of omega t plus theta plus I sin of omega t plus theta. So what will be the real part of this? The real part will definitely come out to be I0 cos of omega t plus theta. So you can represent this in this particular form. Then the current I dash. Now let's say another current identity or equation is given as I dash of t is equal to I0 sine of omega t plus theta. Wherever a sine term is coming, I can represent it as an imaginary part. Yes, I can. So the imaginary part of what? Imaginary part of I0 e raised to j theta into e raised to j omega t, and can also be given as real part of I0 e raised to j theta e raised to j omega t and e raised to minus j90. What is this e raised to minus j90? It is a 90-degree phase shift between. You already know that sine and cos are having, if I want to represent cos in terms of sine or sine in terms of cos, I need to apply the phase shift of pi by 2, and if I apply the phase shift of pi by 2 minus pi by 2, we will come into the first quadrant. So the sign is not going to change because all vector identities in the first quadrant are positive, as sine alpha is equal to cos alpha minus 90 degree. Okay, so try to understand this, try to write some more equations in terms of sine and cos with the omega t and theta, try to represent it with the imaginary and real part. So we'll continue from this point onwards in the next video, and you once again revise those concepts of your phasors, and then we'll try to see how these equations are helpful for us for deriving a Maxwell's equation and deriving a wave equation indeed. Okay, so thank you very much and happy learning.